Hey guys, tonight we're wading into the floating heart of an empire built on mud and miracles, where cornfields double as bridges and the dead travel by flower-strewn canoe. You glide barefoot across water-blackened planks, their surfaces warped into braille by centuries of sandals. Sunlight fractures through reeds, golden needles stitching ripples to your shadow. Somewhere beyond the lily pads, a conch shell wails, its hollow cry fraying into the hiss of irrigation ditches. By the way, you'd last maybe 17 minutes here before sinking waist deep into the muck. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time mines. Currently 9:14 p.m. beneath a moon so fat, it's practically dripping yolk. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your toes meet spongy earth, a deceptively solid tapestry of silt and woven reeds. These floating gardens fed 500,000 Aztecs at their peak, engineered grids far more reliable than our rusty food delivery apps. Each step stirs up water striders, their spindly legs punching pixel-perfect holes in the lake's silver skin. Historians still argue whether that laughter echoing through the canals was actual mirth or just priests mimicking joy during ritual drownings. Don't lick your lips, the air's sweetened by decaying algae and something muskier. Probably best not to dwell on 15th century wastewater treatments. A dragonfly lands on your wrist, its wings humming like miniature obsidian blades. You notice the canals aren't random. They spiral inward like fingerprints pressed into the earth by some giant hand. Here's a fun fact for your next D&D campaign. Workers lined these waterways with abandoned dog bones, apparently great for deterring invasive shrimp. Your elbow brushes a maize stalk. Its leaves flutter like the feathered skirts of dancers mid-spin. That rustling, not wind, it's the sound of 10,000 cobs whispering secrets about rainfall. A ND, Chinese letter. A fish leaps, its body bending light into a momentary rainbow. You glimpse clay tablets underwater, faded glyphs, cataloging harvests and celestial events. One depicts a king weeping into a jar of salamanders, which scholars think either symbolizes humility or allegorically dunked on a rival ruler. Your sandal squelches into the muck, releasing a bubble of air that smells suspiciously like roasted squash. 3 women pass balancing baskets of tadpoles on their heads, laughing as they describe your puzzled face to each other. Pro tip: never accept a drink labeled fermented lake foam, no matter how many elders insist it's medicinal. Shadows lengthen, stretching the gardens into an inky labyrinth. You spot a child's clay whistle, half buried in the mud, its mouthpiece still shaped like a jaguar's growl. Step carefully. The Aztecs, once booby, trapped these paths with hallucinogenic flower spikes to deter overly curious tourists. A heron glides so low, its wing grazes your shoulder, leaving a dusting of powder blue feathers. Some claim this entire city was designed as a living calendar, each canal alignment mirroring constellations, now erased by light pollution. Your thumbnail catches on a reed. It bleeds milky sap that hardens into something resembling chewing gum. Night approaches, the first fireflies emerging like embers spit from a drowned campfire. Historians still argue whether the floating gardens inspired Venice, or if some homesick conquistador merely plagiarized the concept. After one too many pulque benders, you kneel to pluck a marigold, its petals disintegrating into saffron-scented confetti. The water beneath your reflection ripples, carrying away the last daylight in slow, concentric eulogies. Your sandals squelch into the mud, thick and cool, like chocolate pudding left in a spring stream. Farmers crouch knee-deep in the muck, fingers knitting straw into submerged grids. The air smells of wet dog and rotting lilies, a scent you'd complain about if it weren't birthing empires. One man presses seedlings into a floating bed, his hands mapping century-old patterns. Chinampas, he'd call them if he spoke your tongue. These artificial islands once fed 300,000 mouths. Historians still argue whether families tended specific plots, or if the whole slurry was communal. You decide it's both, humans being gloriously inconsistent across eras. A woman offers you a gourd of something amber, fermented water lily syrup, sticky as regret. Swamp honey, she grins, teeth stained nut brown. You sip carefully, tastes like a meadow drowned in molasses. The Aztecs called this place Xochimilco, land of flower gardens. But right now it's 90% swampas and 10% miracle. Their tools clank, bronze clamshell hose, and woven baskets that sing when swung. Each scoop hits the silt with a wet thwop, nature's ASMR track. They're building soil from lakebed ooze and rotten plants, a composting empire. You try counting the floating plots, give up at 17. The grid stretches farther than your tax obligations. You crouch to touch a Chinampa's edge, soggy but solid, like a brownie forgotten in milk. The farmer pats your shoulder, pointing to willow roots stitching the island together. Oldest stitching technique. You mutter the phrase auto-recall from some half-remembered documentary. He nods like you've quoted sacred verse. A boy trudges past hauling duckweed, arm muscles trembling under green slime. His load will fertilize tomorrow's corn or tonight's secret beer brew. Scholars found traces of maize alcohol in old sediment layers. Turns out pyramid builders loved happy hour. The kid winks as he plops the sludge down, a 2,000-year inside joke. Your toe nudges a clay disc half buried in mud. It shows a frog wearing a crown tadpole scepter in one hand. Tilalak's accountant, your guide snorts, mistaking your curiosity. Rain god imagery's common here, but that chubby amphibian royal, pure speculation. Yet dig teams keep finding these near harvest storage pits. Coincidence? The farmers shrug. They've got crops to plant. Sunlight glints off a broken obsidian blade wedged in the bank. A legacy of soil disputes. Maybe. Xochimilco's ledgers show arguments over water rights as intricate as their calendars. You pocket the shard, bad habit, and immediately feel judged by a passing heron. The farmers begin a work chant, voices deeper than the lake itself. Their song vibrates through reeds, a bass line to the swamp's eternal drip-drip. You catch the rhythm, and your shovel starts moving on its own. The chant carries you into a maize forest. Stalks tower 8 feet tall, leaves razoring the sky. Shafts of light spear through, golden green corridors stretch into a leafy infinity. It's quieter here, until you realize the air thrums with wing beats. Hummingbirds dive between tassels, iridescent throats gulping nectar like living hypodermics. You brush a cob sheathed in emerald. Its silk threads glow copper in the sun. 17 rows of kernels, murmurs a voice behind you. A girl grins, fingers tracing the spiral pattern. Each threads a river, each kernel a raindrop. The Aztecs shaped maize through 9,000 years of selective breeding, a feat geneticists still reverse engineer. Shadows shift not from clouds, but 100 black-bellied swallows weaving overhead. Their flight paths etch maps only farmers decipher. Follow the arrowheads, an old woman advises, nodding at V formations. They point to rain or running deer. You squint, bird trajectories look like random squiggles. She laughs. The sound crinkles like dried husks. Children burst from the green corn silk, stuck to their heads as makeshift wigs. One boy's face is smeared with violet berry juice, a self-made jaguar god. They shriek past, trailing stolen cobs. Historians found kid-sized clay figurines buried in fields, playthings, or ritual offerings. No consensus. You pocket a fallen silk tuft, already planning your corn syrup mustache. Leaves whisper a chorus as wind funnels through, a language of rustles and clicks. Close your eyes. It's the acoustic twin of pouring rice. Some agronomists swear maize communicates via root chemicals, a vegetable gossip network. You press your palm to the soil, feel nothing but dumb dirt. A cob cracks underfoot, milky sap beads on broken kernels. You lick it, sweetness cut with earth. That's baby maize blood, a teen snickers, arms laden with husks. He describes fermented addle drinks served at planting festivals, a sacred smoothie that could make jaguars purr. You file that under things to ask critics of Aztec cuisine. Dusk bleeds into the stalks. Shadows stretch into finger puppet monsters. The air chills, but the maize exhales stored warmth from the day. Farmers once slept here during harvest, bundled in cloaks woven from the same leaves. You spot firewood stacks between rows, ash circles from old watchfires. Wind riffles the field, dry husks rattle like skeletal fingers. A whisper slithers past your ear. Famine's breath. You spin nothing but swaying stalks. The Aztecs engineered drought-resistant strains, but crop failures still toppled kings. Historians debate whether blight or hubris collapsed more dynasties. Something tugs your sleeve. A stalk's jagged leaf has snagged you. You free yourself, leave a thread dangling. By dawn, it'll be spider-loomed into new cloth. Nature's thrift store never closes. Moonrise now, the maize forest becomes a silver labyrinth. Bats skim the tassels, feasting on moths drunk with pollen. Your toe kicks a clay shard. It depicts a corn god weeping cob tears. You bury it under a stalk. Let the roots decide its fate. The field sighs, a nocturne of creaking stems and shuddering leaves. Somewhere, a lost quail calls for its flock, or maybe it's the maize itself, humming tunes only soil remembers. You pocket a kernel, not stealing, just borrowing history. Tomorrow, it'll sprout in your sweat-damp shirt, a time-traveling seedling. The maize kernel warms in your palm as twilight bleeds into burnt orange. A new scent cuts through the earthy musk, pungent and citrus sharp. You follow it toward flickering lights and step into a world where fire becomes flower. Marigolds smolder in clay braziers, petals curling like saffron fingernails. Smoke spirals twist upward, each coil a roadmap for returning ancestors. Aztec priests called this cempasúchil the 20 flower, its golden blades mirroring the sun's infinite paths. 20 petals, 20 days in a sacred month, coincidence or calculus. Your eyes water from the haze, part smoke, part awe. A path materializes beneath your feet, cramped yellow blooms pressed into mud bricks. Their crushed stems leak sticky resin. Your soles grab the trail like weak glue. Don't stray, mutters a passing elder, sweeping petals into glyph patterns. Spirits dislike improvisation. You glance back, your footprints already erased by tireless brooms. Teenagers lug wicker baskets, overflowing with marigolds, their arms dusted orange. One girl stuffs petals into her nostrils and giggles. Grandma says it stops sneezes. Historians found pre-Hispanic nasal plugs stuffed with dried flowers, allergy cure, or ritual gag. The line blurs, night deepens. The smoke thickens, a corporeal fog that parts as you walk. Shapes coalesce. A woman cradling effigy bread, a child trailing jade beads, their forms woven from ash and memory. Your pulse spikes until you notice their feet don't touch the ground. Ignore them, says a voice. A florist piles blossoms onto a reed raft, her hands moving with ritual precision. They're just echoes, hungry for flavor. She lights the pile, flames devour petals in a crackling whisper. Dead tongues crave marigold's bitterness. Sweets disgust them. You inhale, acrid smoke coats your throat like oversteeped tea. The raft drifts into the lake, a floating pyre dissolving into sparks. Scholars confirm the Aztecs linked marigolds to death rites, but debate whether the flowers guided spirits or repelled them. You kneel to touch the water. It recoils from your fingers, avoiding the ash. Bells clank in the distance, wooden clappers slapped by priestly thighs. A procession approaches, then stops short. Their marigold masks tilt toward toward your chest. One priest points at your corn-stained shirt. Careful, he rasps. Seeds disrupt the corridors. You freeze, praying the pilfered kernel in your pocket remains undetected. They pass. You exhale and spot a petal stuck to your wrist, vivid as a fresh scar. Peeling it away leaves no mark, but your skin hums where it clung. An old journal surfaces in your mind, Spanish friars, describing warriors chewing marigolds before battle. For visions, they wrote, or maybe just halitosis warfare. Dawn's first blush pales the flames. The blooms, edges crisp, saffron fading to coffin brown. Workers rake cold ash into ceremonial urns. One yawns, scratching hieroglyphic bed marks into his arm. Third night shift this week, he grumbles. Dead people always needing directions. You pocket a charred petal light as a moth wing. The florist catches you and winks. Tell no one, she whispers. Beneath her collar, a necklace of shriveled marigold heads. Their hollow eyes track you long after she's gone. Wind riffles the lake. Ash-skinned ripples mimic walking limbs. Your borrowed kernel feels heavier now, thirsty for soil instead of sweat. Somewhere beneath the water's skin, ancestors argue whether to bless or curse your theft. The marigolds keep their secrets, and the path ahead shimmers with unlit flowers. Your raft drifts past marigold ashes, dissolving into tea-colored water. Silver flashes snap your gaze downward. Carp swirl beneath the reeds like living plow blades. Their fins churn clouds of silt, muddy snowstorms, erasing your shadow on the lake bed. A farmer leans over the rafts, edge, her mud-stained overalls merging with the water. Meet our underwater swallows, she says, tapping the surface. 3 plump fish glide to her fingers, scales glittering like wet chainmail. Archaeologists confirmed Aztec Chinampas used fish to aerate soil. But these farmers swear carp remember specific human voices. One carp nudges your dangling foot, its mouth bristling with whisker-like barbels. Careful, laughs the farmer. Tilalak's beard, hairs bite. You yank your leg back too late. The fish slurps an algae strand clinging to your toe. Mud volcanoes erupt along the bank. Workers dredge nutrient-rich sludge onto floating garden beds. A teen scoops muck with a wooden shovel, groaning. Grandpa says this mirda's better than gold. You raise an eyebrow, his words, not mine. The farmer winks, tossing a rotting squash to the carp. They swarm it, fins whirring like blender blades. Bubbles rise as they chew, the water belching earthy gas. Historians still argue whether Aztecs revered these fish or just exploited their labor. You gag at the stench. Feast of the underworld, the farmer shrugs. A girl rows past with bulging fish baskets, her oar dripping iridescent slime. Want to feed the sky? She hands you a wriggling carp, its gills pulsing against your palm. Tradition claims tossing fish skyward pleases chalk. But you're pretty sure she just hates scale cleaning duty. You heave the fish upward, it arcs, glinting bronze in the sunlight, then belly flops into distant reeds. The girl howls with laughter. 9 out of 10. She scores the air with imaginary glyphs, dedication to Xochimilco, or terrible aim. Duckweed quilts the surface ahead, green felt mottled by darting fish shapes. The farmer parts the vegetation with her pole, revealing a submerged tunnel. Their secret city, she whispers. You peer down, carved stone channels intersect beneath the murk. Workers once redirected entire rivers to nourish these floating farms, though nobody remembers which gods approved the plumbing. Sunset transforms the water into hammered copper. The carp migrate toward shadowed banks, their backs breaking the surface like popping corn. Watch, murmurs the farmer. A fish leaps, snatching a dragonfly midair. It crashes back down, ripples radiating like tree rings. Airborne tonight, she tosses dried maize kernels. Each hit sparks a silver explosion. Your stolen seed vibrates in your pocket. Or is that just the fish bumping the raft? The farmer eyes your twitching coat. Everything fertile, she asks, loading new meaning into the word. You cough, a carp's tail flicks your cheek. When you wipe the slime away, the raft floats alone. Twilight collects in the water's creases, the lake exhaling the day's warmth. Your fingertips brush the surface, and something brushes back. Peering closer, you see them, thousands of fish suspended like shrapnel in gelatin. Their gills pulse in unison, a breathing carpet dissolving into dark water. You reach deeper, the carp part, revealing a ceramic shard crusted with barnacles. A carved face stares up, goggle-eyed God, or just children's graffiti. The raft jerks, you snatch your hand back. A serpentine shape whips beneath the boards, or is it tangled roots? The farmer's laughter echoes from shore. Don't lose fingers, city feet. Even swallows need teeth. Moonlight oils the water. Fish scales glitter like tossed coins. A submerged fortune guarded by whiskered sentries. Your pilfered maize kernel hums against your thigh, synchronized with the carp's rhythmic gulping. Some say the fish sing if you press your ear to wet soil. But that might just be mud squelching. Dawn finds you ankle deep in shore muck, helping stack silt bricks. A carp noses your toes, its mouth vacuuming pebbles. Watch this, says the farmer. She places a seed on its speckled head. The fish rockets downward, planting it neatly in the ooze. 20 years training that one, she boasts, wiping muck on her apron. You doubt it, until 5 more carp line up, seeds balanced on snouts. Their synchronized dive sprays your legs with fertile muck. The farmer grins. Graduating class, 55 AD. By noon, your pocket feels lighter. The maize kernels gone, either stolen by fish or dissolved into the hungry water. You check 4 times. Relax, says the farmer, gutting a carp for lunch. Its innards spiral into the lake, pink threads devoured by siblings. Seeds always find their soil. As she fries the fish over cypress coals, you swear its eye tracks you, a glossy marble full of secrets. Smoke carries the scent of scorched scales and destiny. Somewhere below, new maize roots twine through carp bones, and the lake smirks. Sunlight glints off a submerged pyramid, its twin melting into liquid cobalt. You paddle toward quivering stone peaks, their reflections swallowing the lake's blue throat. At the waterline, priests chant, their mirrored doubles mouthing silent words below. These temples align perfectly with solstice sunrises. You learned that in a documentary once. But nobody mentioned how the buildings seem to breathe. Each wave crumples their facades, stone serpents rippling like living things. A priest wades out, his feather headdress doubled by the lake's mirror. Kneel here, he points. Water laps your shins as you obey. Two versions of your face now float, one freckled, one blurred by hungry fish. He drops jade beads into the water. They sink slowly toward the drowned temple's altar. For Xochimilco's thirst, he explains. Historians still argue whether such offerings were sacraments or liquid taxes for divine plumbing permits. Your knees ache. A carp glides between your submerged thighs, its scales scraping your sunburn. You jerk sideways. The priest sighs. Distractions insult the goddess, unless he squints at your algae-streaked legs, your part frog. Light fractures through a floating censer, saffron smoke staining both air and water. The priest chants louder, his reflections, lips moving a half-second faster. You swear they're mouthing different words. Divers once found obsidian blades beneath these waters, ritual tools for slicing through realities. The priest taps your shoulder. Avoid that thought. His feather cloak hisses as he circles you, a human eclipse darkening the mirrored temple. Raise your palms, he orders. You comply, wrists breaking the water's skin. Twin offerings now hover, one set of hands dripping, one set of ripples reaching upward. He drops a corn husk doll into your reflection's grasp. It floats for 3 breaths, then jerks downward. 5 carps fight over it, turning ceremonial art into soggy confetti. The priest scowls. This is why we use real hearts. Your laugh escapes as a snort. He silences you with a glare that could curdle milk. Dragonflies dart between temple tiers, terrestrial and aquatic insects colliding midair. A priestess across the bay empties a blood-filled gourd. The liquid blooms like ink in a Rorschach test. Red tendrils curl around your submerged ankles. Don't move, warns your priest. Xochimilco reads patterns. You imagine the goddess frowning at your smudged footprint in her crimson parchment. Clouds thicken. The lake's silver mirror tarnishes. Workers rush to cover carved stone eyes with palm fronds. Rain scrambles the messages, mutters the priest, wiping water from his own brow. One bold carp leaps toward the darkening sky, its body slapping the temple's reflection. The priest hurls a pebble at it. Misses. Splash echoes. Thunder rips the air, a sound so deep it vibrates your molars. Lightning forks through both heavens, the one above, the inverted one below. Priests dive for cover, feathers wilting, dignity dissolving. You remain kneeling. Rain pelts your scalp. Each drop births concentric twins in the water. The drowned temple shivers, its eroded face smeared into abstraction. When the storm passes, only froth remains. A priestess salvages a floating offering bowl, its golden sheen dulled by hail strikes. "Come back tomorrow," she says, squeezing lake water from her braids. "God's love," repeats. You squelch toward shore, muddy sandals sucking at each step. Behind you, carps nibble rain-soaked flower petals off the water's skin. Their mouths echo the priest's chant small, wet O's swallowing the light. Your soggy sandals meet drier land. A chorus of giggles pulls you toward reed-thatched huts. 6 children crouch in wet soil, fingers braiding cattails into crooked halos. Blackberry juice stains their chins, purple evidence of midcraft snack raids. An elder watches from a log, her own crown woven from silvered hair and dried maize husks. "Sit," she pats the mud beside her. You do, cool earth seeping through your damp clothes. She tosses you a cattail stalk. Its velvety brown tip tickles your palm like stroking a drowsy rodent. Cattail weaving was preschool prep here. Toddlers mastered basket patterns before their first full sentence. You fumble the basic over-under, the stalk snapping in protest. A girl across the circle snickers. Her own creation spirals upward, a lopsided homage to Quetzalcoatl's feathered crown. The elder's fingers dance, without looking, split reeds becoming latticework between knobby joints. "Each loops a lesson," she says. "This bend, how floodwaters shape riverbanks. This twist, why lovers' lies always unravel. One boy's crown has 7 loops. An elder claims this predicts 7 good harvests." His sister rolls her eyes. Her own 10-knot design was eaten by ducks. You learn cattail sap once glued ceremonial headdresses and cheating husbands to punishment posts. Now the tongues, the elder commands. Children bite down on blackened reeds, staining teeth temporary gray. A mimicry of elder decay, mocking the very mouths that scold them. Your attempt frays at the edges, a sad, lettuce-looking thing. The girl across the fire pit takes pity. She swaps her masterwork for your failure, a quiet act of mercy or future blackmail. Historians still argue whether these braiding circles were classrooms or just babysitting with artistic flair. The elder begins a story. Her voice sinks with the slosh of nearby washboards. When the lake was young, it gifted 3 reeds to a lazy boy. You miss the next 7 plot twists, distracted by a beetle navigating your knee canyon. The tale ends with a moral about mussel shells and ingratitude. Applause erupts. The elder lights a pipe. Its smoke smells suspiciously like stolen temple incense. Twilight stains the reeds indigo. A toddler offers you a cake, mud packed around a dragonfly carcass. You pocket it solemnly. Their grin suggests you've been initiated into some sticky conspiracy. The elder knots your wrist with a reed bracelet, its tension precise. For remembering, she says. Translations vary. Is it a counting aid? A primitive calorie tracker? She winks, answer dissolving into ambiguity. Fireflies emerge as living punctuation. Children chase them, halos askew. Berry stains now camouflaged by dusk. Their laughter skips across the lake's skin, ripples headed nowhere and everywhere. You press a cattail tuft to your ear. The elder swears they sing monsoon lullabies. It just itches. A mother arrives, hands smelling of ground amaranth. She confiscates 2 crowns mid-trade. The elder whispers, "Third theft today, that one's destined for marketplace haggling." Moonlight etches the scene in liquid silver. You accept a half-finished crown. It slips over your eyebrows like a soggy snorkel mask. For wisdom, the girl insists, though her juice-stained smirk suggests mockery. The elder nods, a spider assessing its web. Night swallows the last light. Reeds creak in tomorrow's wind. Dry whispers of crafts yet to come. Somewhere in the dark, a child practices braiding, fingers memorizing the grammar of growth. Dusk stains your ankles as silt shifts beneath bare toes. Canoes materialize like herons stalking twilight. Each vessel rides low, their bellies fat, with squash blushing violet in the failing light. Traders hunch like cormorants, paddles biting water without sound. You count 17 baskets, 18, 19. The math gets fuzzy where mist meets lake. One man nods, his face weathered as the oar he steers. History credits the Aztecs with perfecting Chinampa agriculture. Less known is their mastery of silent commerce. A teenage girl balances amaranth, stalks upright, each seed had a purple torch against gray air. Her paddle handle glows faintly, daubed with crushed firefly abdomens. Fringe theorists claim this cold light outshone torches and scared off tax collectors. Night market special, whispers a shirtless trader, his voice the rasp of rope on wet wood. He opens a basket, the scent knocks you back. Fermented corn, honeyed ants, chocolate spiked with charred chili. Your stomach growls, a feral sound, earning chuckles from shadowed figures. They trade riddles as currency here. What floats hungry, feeds many, dies at dawn. A child's voice pipes up, the moon's bread. Laughter ripples. Answer. Foam skimmed from sprouted maize porridge, a delicacy now lost to history. You spot beetlewing embroideries, each iridescent stitch tighter than a squirrel's grip on acorns. A weaver brags her patterns repelled jealous spirits and attracted twice-divorced suitors. Skepticism lingers along with the urge to touch forbidden fabrics. Historians still argue whether these moonlit markets existed or are just post-colonial poetry. Yet here it breathes, canoes nudging each other like conspirators. A crone trades obsidian blades for parrot feathers. Her scales tip toward whimsy, overweight. Fog thickens, merchants become silhouettes trading shadow goods. Someone hands you a warm clay cup. Pumpkin stew, its surface glittering with edible gold flakes. Kills nightmares, insists the server, or causes them, depending on palace loyalties. Payment comes in whispers. A fisherman mutters coordinates for secret carp nurseries. A potter demonstrates how her jars sing when smuggling contraband. You offer your mud-caked dragonfly cake received earlier. It's accepted as grave collateral. Dawn's first blade slices the horizon. Traders dissolve their canoes, retreating into veiled channels. Left behind, a single amaranth stalk in your grip, and the nagging sense you've been both customer and cargo tonight. Water licks your toes, a final ledger entry. Somewhere beyond the fog, squash meets skillet, gold flake soup cools, and a beetle wing cloak maybe, just maybe, wards off dawn's harsh light. Rain drums hum before thunder speaks, their taut skins vibrating like storm-bound clouds. Villagers gather palms pressed to trembling earth as hide-covered mallets strike clay hemispheres. Mainstream archaeology confirms Aztecs used tepanastli drums for rituals. These models differ, wider mouths, tuned to mimic cracking skies. A bare-chested elder adjusts his grip, the mallet wrapped in ocelot fur. Tlaloc's house needs knocking, he rasps, each thud mirroring distant lightning. Kids snicker about drummers needing arthritis to play right, until the first drops hit their upturned faces. Historians still argue whether these rhythms could actually summon storms, or just scared clouds into compliance. You taste copper, or is it ozone? As the beat accelerates, corn stalks sway in symmetrical waves, leaves applauding in metronomic green. Something clicks underfoot. You unearth a broken turtle shell, carved with glyphs resembling sound waves. Local lore claims musicians buried echo bones to recycle forgotten melodies. The drummer winks finders keepers, but play nice with the ghosts. Rhythms bifurcate. Women slap hand drums stitched from electric eel skins, their sputtering crackles syncing with adolescent giggles. Men answer with log pounders, hollowed cypress trunks emitting subsonic growls. A toddler's accidental kick to a water jar perfects the chord. Priests circulate with reed recorders, etching groove patterns onto wax tablets. One mutters about clouds being lazy listeners, needing percussion to wake their ears. His colleague disagrees. It's not about volume, it's the rests between beats that matter. A vendor hawks lightning licorice, tar black roots supposedly charged by last year's storms. You chew skeptically, then leap as a nearby drumstick strikes stone. Pure coincidence, probably. Farmers insist the treat helps interpret rainfall's tempo. The sky darkens on cue. Someone shouts, 50 beats per cloud. The crowd erupts into competing tempos. A pot-bellied man demonstrates the drought foxtrot, his hip thrusts, sinking drips into rivulets. Mud slurps at fleeing sandals as the deluge begins. Drums dissolve into wet thwacks, then silence. Through the downpour, laughter. A child splashes in sudden mire, best math lesson ever. Steam rises hours later, the drums lie spent like cannons. Fresh carvings mark their sides, incremental tallies, or rain playlists. Your sandal squelches a secret, clay shards imprinted with half-finished rhythms. They pulse faintly, or maybe your heartbeat sinks to phantom storms. Either way, you walk home rehearsing beats that might, just might, postpone tomorrow's sunrise. Night unveils twin skies, stars pricking the black above, glowworms pulsing amber in the lake below. Your sandals snag on submerged roots, each tug releasing bioluminescent clouds. Historians note Aztecs strung firefly lanterns along canals, but none mention how the insects. Morse code syncs with your blinking. A fish breaches. Its splash sprays constellations onto your shins. You kneel, fingertips skating the warm water. Ripples scatter glowworms into fleeting glyphs, a message. Local teens swear the patterns predict maize yields better than farmers' almanacs, claims a girl netting tadpoles, her jar already full of winking lights. Something brushes your calf, not fish nor weed. You recoil, then laugh. It's just hydra, tiny jelly polyps fluorescing like drowned chandeliers. Fringe theorists insist Aztecs engineered these creatures as living motes. Tonight, they feel more like shy friends mimicking stars. Bats dip low, their fur streaking the water with comet trails. One snatches a glowworm mid-flicker. The predator's silhouette blooms radioactive green. Sky jaguar hunting star deer, murmurs an old man poling past. His canoe leaks phosphorescence, a melting galaxy in its wake. You wade deeper, hips slicing liquid constellations. The lake bed glows where your toes disturb sediment, as if night itself were powdered and buried. Scholars still spar over whether Tenochtitlan's engineers mapped stars using these subaquatic lights. The evidence: carved stones showing glowworm clusters mirroring Orion's belt. A child sprints by bare feet, slapping a fugue of splashes. His pockets leak fireflies, each escapee joining the celestial double exposure. Catch a dozen. Mom stops snoring. He yells. You try, but the beetles slip through fingers like animated sparks. Red flares erupt on the far shore, priests igniting resin-soaked reeds. Their fire bends toward the water, as if wooing the glowworms upward. It half works. Bioluminescent tendrils rise to meet the flames. The resulting hybrid light paints everyone chartreuse. Your elbow bumps a floating mat. It jingles, hundreds of snail shells tied with human hair. A morning tradition. A failed raft. Historians still argue whether these were toys or attempts to communicate with submerged spirits. Tonight, they simply shimmer, wind chimes for the drowned. A blur zips past your ear, a dragonfly trailing stolen glowworm mucus. It writes jagged hieroglyphs across the dark, until a frog's tongue snap erases them. Nature's palimpsest. You lie back, float between firmament and its liquid twin. Breath slows, ribs lifting like a bellows pumping starlight. The lake murmurs against your ears, stories told in surface tension. Somewhere, a night heron croaks the punchline. Dawn's first indigo bleeds east, but the water stars outshine it. You cup a handful, glowworms swirling like captive supernovae. They expire gently, their last light seeping into your fingerprints. Later, you'll wonder if constellations recognize their own reflections, briefly held, then released. Your soles sink into cool mud, toes curling around something carved. You pull free. A frog-shaped idol stares up, mouth stuffed with lotus roots. A diver's shout ripples the dawn athlete's plunge, where water deepens to indigo. They surface cradling clay figures, silt streaming from eye sockets like liquid mascara. One statue's belly bulges with charred corn, centuries-old snack for forgetful gods. Historians agree these were offerings to Tlaloc, rain deity with goggle eyes and a waterfall beard, but locals swear the real ritual lives underwater, where frog gods nibble your calves if you wade after midnight. Your thumb brushes the idol's throat, clay cracks, revealing quartz teeth. Careful they bite during floods, laughs a diver, rinsing her haul. She drops 3 more frogs onto a reed mat, each angrier faced than the last. One sports a miniature shield, its battle against pond scum eternal. Lotus roots drape the statues like soggy beards. You tug, the plant pops free with a suck, a sound uncannily like a toddler's kiss. The idol's mouth gapes, tiny glyphs crowd its clay palate. A boy translating nearby snorts. This one complains about mud in its nostrils again. Divers whisper of a colossal toad god buried deeper, its back carved with eclipse records. They felt its spine while groping through murk, but hauling it up. Taboo. Priests say its surfacing would trigger 40 years of catfish rain. You kneel water laps at a half-excavated frog. Its webbed hands clutch a jade bead, moisture trapped inside winks like a captive storm. Archaeologists found similar beads in Tenochtitlan's ruins, some still humming when held to ears. This one's silent or waiting. A vendor offers blessed mini idols, their lotus roots pre-chewed by turtles, guaranteed to delay monsoons or your cocoa back. She winces as her cart tilts. Clay amphibians slide into the lake. Free offerings, she amends, while teenagers snorkel for discounted divinity. The main statue now sits on shore, mud-caked and dripping. A priest scrapes its tongue with an obsidian blade. Black ooze plops into a ceremonial bowl. Voice of the deep, he explains. The group leans in its just algae slurry. Night's last glowworms cling to the idol's ears, living earrings whispering to clay. You press a palm to its chest, expecting coldness. Instead, a vibration, the subsonic purr of 1,000 drowned prayers. Historians still argue whether these frogs were flood warnings or tax collectors for aquatic bureaucracies. The answer: priests chant as divers rebury the largest idols, a yearly reset button for grudges held by soggy deities. Your own fingers itch to pocket a tiny godlet, but the mud resists. It clings like memory, like lake bottom hands insisting this story stays wet. Relenting, you nestle the idol back into its silt cradle. A girl tugs your sleeve, her palms smeared with hieroglyphs drawn in deity mud. This one's you, she giggles, pointing to a stick figure dropping glowworms. The caption: stranger who returned our grumpy librarians. Dawn firms the horizon, workers lash statues to reed boats. One frog tilts, its quartz teeth catch the light, a final flash before submersion. You watch until the water stills, until gods and ripples become speculation. Something nibbles your submerged ankle, real or imagined. You choose mystery and wade ashore smiling. You step into a sunlit clearing, knees brushing against jagged leaves. An elder crouches, gnarled fingers uprooting a fern-like plant. She snaps a stem, milky sap oozes. Goosefoot, she rasps. Tasty if you boil it thrice, or die trying. The leaves curl like arthritic hands, their edges serrated as shark teeth. Bitter chlorophyll stings your tongue. Imagine licking a lawnmower blade. A toddler nearby munches raw greens, then puckers like a salted slug. Archaeologists found caches of these seeds under Templo Mayor proof peasants, nibbled what nobles scorned, but the Aztec elite. They called it mud lettuce, while secretly using its sap to polish ritual knives. Smell this, the elder commands, crushing wallflower leaves. Fennel and burnt hair invade your sinuses. She grins. We burned it to stupefy invading Spaniards. Worked until they mistook the smoke for barbecue. A teenage boy hangs dream catchers from amaranth stalks. Old folks say bad sleep clings to these stems. His friends snort, but adjust the hoops anyway. Your sandal dislodges a terracotta shard, its surface etched with herb glyphs. One resembles dandelions with human feet. Researchers decoded similar tablets, praising goosefoot's medicinal flatulence. The elder tosses you a knotted root. Chew slow, unless you want your heart to outrun its own shadow. It tastes like regret and black pepper, with a minty afterburn. Women weave baskets from flowering stalks, pollen dusting their braids sulfur yellow. Fit for goddesses, once, mutters the elder. Xochimilco's priestesses supposedly waded through goosefoot fields to renew their holiness. Skeletons in ritual graves still clutch bouquets, petrified greens flaking like ancient brooches. A vendor hawks Aztec power salad. Rank leaves wilting under sun-blistered plastic. Teenagers dare each other to sip rebel smoothies, blended with nettles and pond scum. One gags theatrically, while his friend films for Xochimilco fame. The elder rolls her, my day. We suffered authentically. You spot a leaf fossilized in adobe, its veins fossil black against terracotta. Scholars debate whether these were construction accidents or intentional murals for illiterate builders. The elder spits, a brown arc hitting a beetle. Or maybe dirt's just dirt. Sunset stains the field, copper workers sing as they torch invasive thistles. Flames recoil from wallflower patches, leaving charred honeycombs of stalks. Watch close, whispers the elder. Embers swirl into the shape of a diving heron, a fleeting silhouette against smoke. Your pocket vibrates. A stolen goosefoot seed rattles in its clay vial. Historians still argue whether these plants fueled empire building or just empire-sized indigestion. The answer wilts in your palm, its DNA a ledger of feasts and famines. The elder grips your wrist, knuckles pressing pulse points. Hunger's first teachers, she repeats, plucking a sprig tucked behind your ear. You realize it's been there for hours. The world blurs at the edges, a watercolor of chlorophyll and twilight. Fireflies mimic dying embers, their lights wavering as if exhausted. You chew another leaf, bitterness now layered, almost complex. The elder nods, takes 9 tries to taste the sky in it. A child offers a woven crown, goosefoot stems scratching your scalp. It itches. It hums. It belongs. Moonrise finds you cataloging flavors, acrid, peppery, a whisper of loam. Your tongue maps the ghost of a civilization that dined on desperation, then forgot how to savor it. The field exhales its breath, tinged with the arrogance of weeds that outlived gods. The rope groans, its agave fibers singing under shifting loads. You inch across, each footfall wrinkling the bridge's spine. Salt traders sway ahead, bundles of dried sea crust strapped to foreheads. Their songthrums sync with creaking chords, verses about cactus flower oases and moon-burnt dunes. A merchant laughs, his salt block clacking like turtle shells. Careful, dreamer, lean into the swing or become lake fodder. Legend says these bridges birthed the first mariachi, their ballads spliced from trader hymns and gull cries. Archaeologists found lyrics carved into centuries-old salt bricks, half shopping lists, half love poems. Wind plucks at your clothes, fingers jealous of the salt's whiteness. Beneath, a river mirrors the chaos above, staring feels like dropping forever. Someone ahead hums through their nose, a tune about parrot feather caravans swallowed by sand. Teenagers dare each other to spit at the current, their saliva arcs dissolve mid-fall. Your bundle shifts, sudden as a hiccup. Hands scrabble at woven straps. Tenochtitlan's gut rotted without our salt, says a woman, reloading her balance. Her earlobe dangles a jade shrimp tribute to Huixtasihuatl, salt's weeping goddess. Traders still spill bitter liquor at crossroads, though no one recalls which ankle she broke creating oceans. Planks twist, revealing azure feathers wedged between fibers. Macaw plumes, maybe, or quetzal remnants from doomed trips south. Historians still argue whether these spans connected markets or mythological realms. The answer hides in how you count footsteps, actual or imagined. Sun glares off salt packs, you become a walking prism. Shadows pool at your feet like stolen dye. A child offers fermented sap in a reed cup. It smells like licking a battery. 4 sips for courage, she lies badly. Her mother's laugh shakes the bridge into temporary fury. Dancers materialize at the far bank, ropes knotted around their waists. They leap and jerk, mocking the bridge's tremors. Oldest joke in the basin, shrugs a trader. Dance the fear, or let it dance you. Their ankle bells clatter like teeth in a winter skull. One performer balances a clay pot on her head, its contents sloshing suspiciously. Don't ask, warns the salt wife. Last fool who drank that saw jaguars in his spoon. The dancers spin their shadows, braiding with yours. For a breath, you're part of the rhythm, then they're gone. Nightfall licks the canyon walls. Traders clip glowworm lanterns to their hair. The bridge becomes a necklace of trembling lights. Someone passes you a salt chunk. It's faintly fishy, like a kiss from a murdog. From Texcoco's dead shore, they murmur. You pocket it, a tiny ghost of an evaporated sea. Your toes meet solid earth. Relief floods your lungs like stolen oxygen. Behind, the bridge sways empty, yet the songs cling like brine. Salt traders dissolve into the dark, their debts to vanished waters unpaid. Their pockets heavy with crystals that outlasted gods. Moonlight braids through reeds. Your shadow spills across the lake's blackened silver. Something glints beneath the surface, not fish, not stars. Metallic beetles dart, their shells refracting blues and coppers like shattered stained glass. Each kick sprouts a trail of bubbles, crystalline threads, stitching the water taut. A child's voice pierces the marsh dark. Loom legs. 3 girls crouch on a half-sunken raft, fingers poised above the shimmering chaos. Count the knots, commands the tallest. Their palms dip, snatching at bubble chains. The threads burst with wet pops, releasing air that smells faintly of fermented honey. You wade closer, algae squelching between toes. One beetle zips past your knee, its legs pumping like tiny oars. Historians credit Chinampa farmers with engineering these floating gardens, but few mention their 6-legged collaborators. Each bubble network oxygenates mud, keeping maize roots breathing even during floods. The girl's grandmother once claimed beetles predicted storms, weaving tighter meshes when rains neared. Better than priest songs, she'd sniff, until Inquisition-era scribes redacted her heretical almanac. A bubble chain snares your wrist, its silken strand dissolving into dew. The children giggle, don't yank, you'll fray the whole web. Their raft drifts toward a beetle congregation, thousands clinking like dropped coins. One girl hums a lullaby about Tlaltekutli, the earth monster, whose scattered scales became the first jeweled insects. Lies interrupts her sister. They're just ditched necklaces from drowned merchants. Moonbeams catch a bubble cluster. It mirrors the Pleiades. Fishermen once navigated by these living constellations, until Spanish galleons smothered the water lanes with lead-weighted nets. Your calf brushes a submerged beetle heap. They explode upward, a shimmering geyser drenching the girls. Their squeals scatter herons from nearby nests. An elder materializes her shawl, woven from dried bubble threads. Step lightly, they're repairing the east shallows. She points to a spiraling latticework trapping moonlight. That one's a love charm, or maybe a fish trap. Her shrug suggests both. Archaeologists found identical patterns etched into Toltec fertility amulets, paired with baffled notes about ritual graffiti. The beetles surge, a sudden metallic tide. Their threads quilt the lake into glowing hexagons. Monarchs do this on land, you mutter. The elder snorts. Butterflies lack work ethic. She describes larval nests binding rafts together, nurseries disguised as floating weed clumps. Tried farming them once, she adds. Ruined my sandals, kept hatching in my toe rings. Dawn bleeds through, threads dissolve into mist. The children pocket drowsy beetles for luck, though their palms already glint with stolen scales. Historians still argue whether Aztec engineers bred these beetles or simply plagiarized nature's blueprints. You kneel. A bubble mesh clings to your sleeve like liquid lace. It holds for 3 breaths, then collapses into the lake's skin. The elder smirks. They never last, but neither do we. Your fingers skim the water, ripples dismantle the remaining webs. Somewhere below, a million legs resume their invisible knitting. Moonlight fractures into duck-shaped shadows, ripples tally, each quiver of reeds. A fisherman kneels, his calloused fingers pinching knots along a cord strung with goose down. 37. No, 39, he mutters, squinting at silhouettes gliding overhead. The Chinese letter cord dangles, its complex braids mirroring duckling math, lessons from the marsh schools of Texcoco. He notices your shadow. Counting's useless unless you taste the wind. His thumb brushes a knot soaked in fish oil, a ledger of vanished flocks. 19 knots mean lean winters. 53 scream foxes at the eastern bank. Ducks arc past the moon, their wings snap like abacus beads. Historians confirm Aztec midwives administered duck egg tonics for frail newborns. But folklore claims greedy accountants were cursed to count birds until dawn. A second fisherman materializes, ropes of dried algae slung over his shoulder. He scowls at the knot cord. You're 2 behind. That's a mated pair near the cattails. His companion grunts, retying a frayed section. Males don't count post-molt. Everyone knows that. Debate simmers between them, a centuries-old feud over whether eclipsed ducks should be halved or rounded up. You crouch fingering a D-I-S-C, a R-D-E-D, Chinese letter cord. Its loops whisper of base 20 math. Yet some knots twist in patterns no scholars deciphered. Fathers taught us to subtract beaks lost to snapping turtles, says the younger fisherman. He demonstrates, unraveling a segment blackened by rot. 8 minus 3 claws. His voice trails as night herons croak from a willow. Children wade through shallows, their aprons bulging with duckweed. One brandishes a stone tablet etched with hatch marks. Auntie says moon duck numbers predict twin births. The elders roll their eyes. She also thinks axolotls write poetry in the mud. Laughter ripples, but you spot 2 women nodding. They whisper, fingers flicking through knot patterns on their sashes. A splash disrupts the tension. A mallard lands too close to a lurking caiman. Fishermen lunge, slapping water with their cords. The reptile retreats its eyes, lingering on the duck clouds above. 20 years back, one swallowed 14 hatchlings, mutters the elder. We subtracted his whole lineage from the count. He spits, a brown arc staining the reeds. Dawn threatens, flocks disperse into mist. The fishermen stash their cords in otterskin pouches. They'll call us superstitious, but show me a Spanish ledger that tracks eel migrations by duck hiccups. His laugh turns brittle. Archaeologists found a TCH, ING, Chinese letter cords in Tenochtitlan's tax archives, yet dismiss them as decorative fringes. The children simmer a cauldron of duckweed, its stench curling your nostrils. Grandma makes it tart with stolen limes. One chirps. You decline the ladle. Historians still argue whether THE Chinese letter cords documented real data or served as meditative talismans for number-drunk priests. The fishermen's sons begin a new count, fingers flying through knots, as if solving an argument in midair. Your toes nudge a half-buried cord, its fibers pulse with generations of feathery arithmetic. For a breath, the chaos of quacks and splashes resolves into order, then unravels as a pup splashes through the data stream. The eldest fisherman sighs. Recount at moonrise. His eyes glint, the lake already rewriting its equations in waves. Your heel slips on a moss-slick stone. A jagged mussel shell bites into your calf. Blood ribbons through the water, a crimson Rorschach that attracts curious shapes. Something brushes the wound, cool and velveteen. A salamander coils around your ankle, its frilled gills flaring neon pink in the murk. Don't flinch, murmurs a voice. An elderly woman wades toward you, kelp braids dangling over bark paper robes. Her fingers hover above the creature, axolotl scholars. They rewrite flesh like potters mend clay. The amphibian's tail flicks, its eyes black and depthless as obsidian mirrors. You grimace, the cut already knitting itself beneath that alien touch. The healer laughs, a sound like reeds scraping copper. Spanish chroniclers called them water monsters, but we know better. She withdraws a clay jar, its sides glazed with algae. Inside, a dozen axolotls writhe in lazy spirals. Surgeons in Tenochtitlan use their slime to seal wounds, though some say that's just fishwife gossip. The creature releases you, leaving skin smooth as a birthing stone. You probe the vanished injury, half expecting scales or webbing. Regret tastes like mud to them, the woman warns. They'll heal your body, but absorb your sorrows as payment. She nods to the jar. One axolotl now sports a gray streak through its gills. Children gather at the shore, their arms laden with soggy prayer strips. Auntie, the twins stubbed their toes again. A boy shoves his sibling forward, bloody toes wriggling over duckweed. The healer sighs, manifestadors, always crashing through life like jaguar pups. She plucks an axolotl its tail, already regenerating a missing tip. As it mends the child's foot, you notice tattoos on the healer's wrists. Fading indigo axolotls devour their own tails. My grandmother inked these during the Great Flood, she says. Salamanders multiplied then. People claimed they were rebuilding the world bone by bone. Historians confirm axolotls were associated with Xolotl, the god of misfortune. though modern labs study them for spinal regeneration secrets. A girl tugs your sleeve. They eat sadness watch. She hums a lullaby, the axolotls swaying in their jar. One regurgitates a pearl-like sphere, opalescent and faintly throbbing. The healer scowls. Put that back. You don't want last month's heartache floating around. Dusk stains the water copper. Patients arrive, fishermen with hook-pierced palms. A woodcutter nursing an oak splinter through his thumb. Each receives an axolotl slapped onto wounds with ceremonial briskness. Don't name them, cautions the healer as you admire a particularly frilly specimen. They'll follow you home and drain your dreams to feed their metamorphosis. You point to a Chinese letter lurking under a log, its limbs grotesquely doubled. Mutation or miracle? The woman hesitates. Scholars still argue whether two-headed axolotls were revered as divine or boiled into bargaining charms. She lowers her voice. My cousin married a merchant who drank an axolotl broth nightly, grew back a missing finger, but kept coughing up larval teeth. Night falls, the clinic empties. The healer rubs a salve onto her axolotl's gills. City dwellers pay silver for their slime now, fools seeking eternal youth. She snorts. No one wants the real secret, how to regrow a shattered heart. Your healed calf tingles, phantom gills fluttering with each step. As you leave, a familiar pink creature darts after your shadow. The healer's warning echoes, but you let it follow. Somewhere in the reeds, a man weeps into the shallows. His tears vanish, ripples spreading toward a half-seen shape with patient jaws. The axolotls stir, their bellies full of borrowed pain, as the lake swallows another confession. The first gust hits like a drunk god's belch, sudden and sulphurous. Reed walls shudder, their woven fibers screeching like overworked violin strings. You brace against a support post, the sour tang of fermented mud in your throat. Outside, water paths boil into froth, maize stalks bowing east as if paying tribute. Children pile into the hut's center, their laughter sharp with nerves. It's Tlaloc clearing his throat. A boy crows, referencing the rain god. His sister pelts him with a dried gourd. Don't joke, he'll flood our squash again. Historical records confirm the Aztecs built reed huts for flexibility during storms. Though Spanish friars called them loose threads waiting to unravel, an elder rearranges clay idols on a shelf, each figure's back carved with drainage channels. Great-grandfather designed these to spit out stormwater, she mutters. Clever, until the gods take it personally. Wind rams the roof, 1,000 twigs clicking like ancestral teeth. You notice bean pods tied to the rafters, their rattle allegedly drowning out thunder. Quirky and utterly useless against this cacophony, a teenage boy bursts in soaked and wild-eyed. The Lopez family's hut just cartwheeled into the lake. His mother yanks him down, wiping like silt from his eyebrows. Sit, or you'll be next season's fertilizer. Families huddle closer, mapping repairs through rapid hand gestures. They'll start at dawn, if the sky stops throwing its tantrum. Lightning flash, the hut becomes a shadow puppet theater. A baby wails as rain hammers through the thatch. Someone hands you a grinding stone. Its weight says, "Make yourself useful." You smash maize kernels to paste emergency rations, smelling of wet dog and devotion. The elder slaps a mud poultice on the teenager's hypoxic ankle. Stop limping, you'll scare the corn spirits. Historians still argue whether Aztec storm rituals appeased deities or just gave kids something to mock during cleanup. Outside, a fishing net full of squash floats by like a ghostly harvest. Dawn leaks through fractured clouds, revealing a village mid-transformation. Neighbors wade through debris, tossing broken gourds into a future compost pile. A girl rescues tadpoles from a puddle, her cupped hands trembling with provisional hope. Men cinch new reeds with vines, their knots replicating patterns found in 16th century codices. You spot the axolotl healer across the water, her jar of salamanders now doubling as paperweights. She nods, a silent, still alive then, before vanishing into the steam of a bean stew pot. Children rebuild duck pens, their chatter peppered with mutant rhymes about thunder and tortillas. By noon, the huts stand crooked but defiant. Someone starts a song, the melody warped by missing roof panels. You hum along, your boots squelching rhythms into half-drowned soil. Storm's over. Rebuilding's begun. The wind, now reduced to a sulky breeze, sniffs at fresh thatch like a jilted lover. You bite into a chili-spiked tamale. Its heat, a small victory against the lake's damp breath. Somewhere, an unseen frog croaks the storm's epitaph. They'll name this squall in 3 days, once they've tallied the dead squash. The widow Atsi, her name like a knuckle against stone, kneels in mud, gone sour from storm rush. She drags a string across divided earth, geometry etched by waterlogged fingers. "Trapezoids for my sons," she declares. 2 boys stoop over plots, one shaped like a broken lyre, the other a beetle's wing. Their hands hover, unsure whether to grip hose or weep. You catch the scent of wilted episode, its medicinal bite mingling with grief. Atsi's daughter traces symbols in the muck. A crescent moon times 3 corn kernels plus a dotted line. "Equations are lighter than soil," she whispers. Historical records show Aztec daughters often managed celestial math, matching planting cycles to star paths. The boys' shoulders slump jokes about brotherly beat duty, dissolving in the humid air. A nephew arrives with knotted cords, each twist representing seed yields. Atsi barks a laugh. Your knots look like drunken spiders. Quirky, some scholars think these strings inspired later Inca quipus, though no one wants to admit it. The boy blushes, tugging at a tassel dyed with crushed cochineal. Wind tousles the equations, smearing variables into Rorschach blots. The daughter recalculates, her stylus darting across a lime-coated palm. Full moon times 12 bean rows divided by. She falters, glancing at her brother's sweating backs. "You forgot the frost risk coefficient," her mother snaps. A mainstream fact, the Aztec tonal Pohueli calendar tracked 260 days, but inheritance math, that stayed fiercely local. Shadows stretch, trapezoids morph into skewed parallelograms. The suns harvest blue squash, their blades nicking roots in haste. A beet bleeds magenta onto the daughter's foot. She gasps. A joke dies on her lips. Atsi squats beside her, fingers combing through the spoiled equation. Redraw it. Omtiatl favors stubborn daughters. Nightfall brings tamales stuffed with charred corn, the husks still reeking of storm smoke. Atsi divides them, using the same string from the fields. Historians still argue whether land partitions reflected true math or just theatrical parenting. You chew slowly, tasting ash and ambition. The daughter retreats to the lake's edge, her equation now scrawled on a floating mat. "Moon times yield plus luck," she recites. Water beetles skate over the symbols, their legs bending the plus sign into a question. Dawn finds the brothers arguing over trapezoid corners, their shovels punctuating each gripe. The sister watches her hands folding into a steeple. "Your plots lack hypotenuse respect," she deadpans. Even Atsi snorts. Rain returns gentler now. Equations smear. Soil drinks the numbers whole. The daughter shrugs. Will inherit the recalculations. Somewhere downstream, a frog swallows a water scroll fragment. The algebra continues. Curved knives bite into the wicker dam. Muddy lake blood gushes through fresh wounds. You stumble as earth liquefies, toes sinking into arteries of fleeing water. The high priest howls verses older than Tenochtitlan, his cheeks smeared with fermented agave paste. A mainstream fact slips through the chaos. Aztecs drained Chinampas seasonally, though never this violently. Carp writhe at your ankles' gills, fanning silt into champagne froth. Teenagers scoop them into reed cages, laughing as silver scales stick to their eyelashes. 29. 30. 31 slimy wishes. A merchant slips on fish slime, his obsidian blades scattering like dropped cutlery. 3 days pass in a blur of cracked mud and drunken sun. Farmers sprint across the drained basin, their feet punching through algae crusts. You spot a boy cradling a catfish longer than his leg. Quirky detail. Some chronicles claim rulers bred mud dragons to entertain crowds during droughts. But that's probably just imperial propaganda. Midday heat warps the air. Priests melt into wavering shadows. One elder staggers, his feather headdress drooping like a deflated turkey. Historians still argue whether this ritual prevented floods or invited them. Your sandals suction freeze with each step, the sound like tape ripping off skin. Nightfall reveals looters scratching at the lake bed, fingers clawing for sunken figurines. You pocket a jade frog, its belly etched with glyphs even scholars can't parse. 7 rains since the last dredging, mutters a vendor, hawking lizard-skinned flasks. Drink the lake's last tears. Dawn's third blush stains everything salmon pink. A child drags a stick through mud, etching spiral tailies of turtle migrations. Warriors trudge past, arms full of sedge roots that'll regrow in 60 days. You trip over a half-buried canoe, your shin meeting, wood seasoned by 8 decades of fish piss. The high priest collapses, his arthritic knees finally surrendering. Apprentices cart him off like a soggy corn idol. Next year, he croaks, we'll drain it faster. Someone flicks a minnow into his gaping mouth. The crowd roars. You're not sure if it's reverence or mockery. Sunset bleeds into the cracked basin. Women scatter marigold seeds where catfish once spawned, their sand writing promises of golden shores. You pocket a shard of pottery sharp enough to cut tomorrow's dawn. The lake exhales its last damp sigh, dreaming of monsoons yet to come. Somewhere beneath your feet, a forgotten storm god rolls over in its silt grave and smiles. A bloated canoe grins up from the mud, its ribs cradling a silhouette wrapped in marigold chains. You blink, realizing those floating specks aren't petals. They're entire flowers swallowing the corpse whole. Mourners materialize shin-deep in sludge, their mourning robes hiked to avoid algae stains. One woman adjusts the deceased's maize silk shroud, the golden threads dissolving wherever lake water still weeps. Marigolds choked Aztec death rites for centuries, their saffron scent believed to guide wandering souls. Historians still argue whether these canoe burials aimed for the ocean's horizon or just the nearest lake's edge. A teenager plucks soggy cempasúchil from her ankle, tossing it back into the beer with an eye roll. Abuela's gonna reek for weeks, she mutters. The procession marches knee-deep toward nowhere, hymns warping in the afternoon heat. You spot modern contraband, a Coca-Cola bottle tucked between the corpse's hands. His favorite, shrugs a mourner, adjusting the dead man's sunglasses. Their sandaled feet churn up freshwater clams, each shell clicking like a broken metronome. Nightfall turns the basin into a negative, white marigolds glowing against black mud. Teenagers swipe tequila from the elder's grief stash, giggling as they spike the funeral canoe. 12 gods walk with him. Slurs a priest, his breath sweet with stolen mezcal. 13, if you count the raccoon that bit him. Dawn licks the scene clean, revealing a stowaway. A dog pup huddled beneath the shroud. The widow sighs, her fingers finding the creature's mossy fur. He always fed strays, she says, tucking a tamale into the canoe's splintered hull. You count 7 live crabs clinging to the gunwale passengers, or plague. By noon, the canoe's a floating ecosystem, beetles nesting in the corpse's left ear, tadpoles wriggling in his navel. Someone's draped a luchador mask over his face, its sequins catching light like tiny rescue flares. A debate erupts when the youngest mourner lobs a firework into the boat. It's what he wanted, she insists, fumbling with a disposable lighter. The widow intervenes, plucking the explosive from her husband's rigor mortis grip. Her sigh carries 6 decades of marriage. Always the damn fireworks. She replaces it with a TV remote, the batteries removed. Historians will later debate why this burial canoe held 3 kilos of chia seeds. They'll write papers, host symposia, maybe even dissertations. But you watched the truth, a toddler dumping his snack bag into the boat when nobody looked. Goodbyes drag on nobody sure how to end a ceremony that's mostly improvisation. A priest throws a rubber ball at the corpse's feet, calling it the sun's last plaything. The dog pup pees on the marigolds. Someone starts a conch shell karaoke rendition of Cielito Lindo. You pocket a chrysanthemum seed, illegal to harvest, irresistible to steal. The push-off happens at twilight, 18 hands, shoving the canoe into the lake's residual slick. Water parts reluctantly, thick as motor oil from 3 days of fish death. The vessel drifts 5 meters, 10, then halts, grounded on an unseen mud dune. 3 teens wade out to refloat it, their curses muffled by ceremonial incense. Moonrise baptizes the scene in tarnished silver. The dog howls, an aria that prickles your neck hairs. One by one, mourners turn homeward, carving fresh blisters into their lakebed commute. You linger as wind worries the shroud, its frayed threads beckoning like skeletal fingers. When the final hymn dies, it leaves only the canoe's slow creak, rotating clockwise on some unseen current. In the corpse's outstretched palm, blackened by sun and ceremonial copal, a single marigold seed germinates. Its pale shoot pierces the stagnant air, a green hyphen between mud and moonlight. The marigold's pale shoot trembles, then snaps under a skin of ice. Winter slams its fist, the lake hardening into jagged glass. Frogs hang suspended mid-leap, limbs splayed like tangled starfish. Their jeweled eyes still track phantom insects, bodies paused mid-hunt. Farmers crunch across the frost, woven baskets cradling frozen amphibians. You stoop to inspect one, its throat sac bulging with an unfinished croak. Don't thaw them indoors, warns a woman, her breath curling into a frost flower. They'll finish that ribbit right in your cooking hearth. Archaeologists found ice-preserved axolotls under Tenochtitlan's ruins, some still twitching when excavated. Historians still argue whether that's science or colonial-era tall tales. A child licks a frozen frog, immediately regretting it, as elders chuckle into mittened hands. Tastes like pond snot, he gags, spitting onto ice-veined mud. By midnight, farmers bury the frogs in dirt mounds, each grave marked with corn husk flags. Sleep well, little rain callers, murmurs an old man, tucking a grass blanket over the icy nest. His grandson protests, they're just frogs, earning a flicked ear. And you're just meat that talks, the elder retorts. Respect the waiters of spring. You spot a frozen mating pair, their embrace locked in glacial permanence. A teenager sketches them in the margins of her math homework. Mr. Gonzalez says this is cryo something preservation, she says. But I'm calling it love on pause. Her pencil erases the ice, replacing it with a tiny wedding veil. Dawn reveals raccoon tracks circling the graves, paw prints filled with stolen chili flakes. Old trick, snorts a farmer. Thief masks hate spicy dirt. She sows more flakes, turning the mounds into temporary fire traps. Some claim Aztec warriors used ghost pepper ash to guard armories. Macho folklore, probably. Your boots slip on a frozen algae patch, arms windmilling comically. 3 farmers mimic your flailing, then collapse laughing into a snowdrift. Careful, tourist, grins a teen. Next you'll wake the Frog King. He points to an iced-over reed, its shape vaguely throne-like. You bow sarcastically, and your hat tumbles into the lake's new ice mouth. Moonlight fractures through the graves, casting prismatic frogs on distant huts. Families huddle around hearths, sipping cocoa flecked with powdered moth larvae. A grandmother recounts the time lightning unfroze a whole pond, sending confused frogs hopping onto roofs. They sang soprano for weeks. She cackles, stirring a pot of scorched addle. By week's end, the first thaw arrives, a timid drip from sodden clouds. Farmers unearth the frogs, now glossy and pliant as fresh clay. A child prods one, its leg kicking feebly. "See," says the elder, "they're just rebooting." The frogs leap toward the lake, their delayed croaks merging into a shattered symphony. You pocket a pebble of lake ice. Its heart holds a bubble shaped like your face. The farmers don't warn you this time. They know it'll melt by noon. The melted ice leaves your pocket damp, a cold reminder of time's slippery hands. Ahead, figures stand knee-deep in mist, crane feathers bristling from headdresses like quill pens stabbed into flesh. Their obsidian necklaces click in unison. A metronome tracking cloud shapes overhead. One priest tilts his face, feathers trembling as storm winds comb through their veins. His eyes lock onto a high-flying V of ibises. "Eastward, my Grantian," he mutters. Scribes kneel nearby, carving symbols into pumpkin leaves with bone needles. The youngest nicks his thumb, a blood bead staining hail into rotten maize. Historians still argue whether these skyreaders predicted floods or just took credit for lucky guesses. You lean closer, smelling the brine crust on their linen wraps. Turns out crane priests double as fish-gut readers. Their robes stink of yesterday's trout auguries. A scribe offers you a leaf scrap. "Don't eat it," he deadpans. Last tourist mistook prophecies for salad. The lead priest hisses, pointing at a cloud fraying into squid tentacles. Scribes frantically etch wavy lines, arguing over spacing. Wider gaps mean softer rains, insists one. Narrower prevents mudslides, counters another. Their pumpkin parchments crinkle each verdict more brittle than the crops they protect. You spot a discarded leaf. Today's TIDES will arrive late and in a bad mood. A teen priest mutters about whether God's needing better nap schedules. His elder flicks a feather at him. "Respect the grumpy clouds. They're why you're not drinking mud." Archaeologists found 700-year-old pumpkin leaf forecasts, under Texcoco's market plaza, most predicting adequate sun, probably. One note warned of blood rain, though chicken blood rituals were scheduled that week. Coincidence? The priest's descendants say sure while winking. Dusk stains the lake copper feathers ignite into halos. The head priest presses a leaf into your palm. Its glyphs show drowned pyramids. 3 days, he says, then buy sandals that float. Before you ask questions, he plucks a feather, tickling your ear like a goodbye. You pocket the prophecy, alongside a pumpkin seed dislodged by wind. Tomorrow's problem. Tonight, the lake exhales fog, swallowing crane cries into its wet throat. Mud squelches between your toes, the lake's edge, now a canvas of wet clay. Children crouch barefoot, digging fingernails into silt to carve spirals. A girl presses her palm deep, pulls up a handful of gleaming muck. Watch this, she giggles, smearing the Pleiades, as 7 frog tracks, leaping toward Orion. Beetle shells glint in her hair, 3 iridescent ovals forming the hunter's belt. Elders murmur their approval, rippling through torchlight. One traces the mud sky with a corn husk quill. Before pyramids, before even fire, we drew stars in dirt, he croaks. Archaeologists found similar star maps under Tenochtitlan's ruins, ancient chalk rubbed into floor tiles like celestial fingerprints. A boy fashions Sagittarius from willow twigs and snail shells. My uncle says the archer's arrow points to Tenochtitlan's bathroom district. The elders groan, though one hides a smirk behind her shawl. Historians still argue whether these maps taught navigation or just gave kids something to vandalize. You kneel, fingertips brushing Orion's beetle belt. The clay sucks at your skin, cool and insistent. A child slaps a wet handful onto your wrist. Now you're part of the Milky Way. Stuck to your arm, lumpy white clay stars, and one confused earthworm. Torchlight catches the elders' faces, wrinkles mirrored in the mud's grooves. They point to distorted reflections. See, the sky bends down to touch its twin. Their theories debated. Some scholars swear these maps encoded crop cycles. Others think they were artistic tantrums after too much pulque. The girl adds Jupiter as a smeared thumbprint. Grandpa says planets are just God's spitballs. An elder flicks her earlobe. Respect, though don't lick the models. You brush the clay Jupiter, it smells of fish scales and childhood birthday mud pies. Rain threatens. Children rush to preserve their work, pressing leaves onto the maps like clumsy printing presses. The boy slaps a paddleweed over Ursa Major. There. Now the bear's drenched forever. Fat drops punch craters in Andromeda. Elders retreat, their laughter blending with thunder. One lingers, his shadow stretching across the disintegrating Scorpius. We remade heaven in mud, so rain would recognize its kin. His breath smells of roasted grasshoppers and unanswered questions. Archaeologists found beetle shell constellations in a noble's tomb, arranged to mirror his birth chart. Coincidence? The grave's caretaker claims they just looked pretty. Lightning forks, The lake mirrors the split sky. Children shriek, dancing in the downpour. Their clay cosmos washes away, beetle shells floating like miniature boats. The elder squeezes your shoulder. Remember, even erased maps leave stains. You pocket a snail shell, its spiral echoing both galaxy and fingerprint. Behind you, the lake gulps down starry mud and giggles. Green sludge clings to your sandals, each step revealing thumb-shaped gaps in the duckweed blanket. Teenagers wade nearby, arms marked with charcoal lines. One dunks her elbow up to a smudged numeral. 6 thumb width since dawn, she declares. Her rival scoffs, measuring the same patch with his foot. 9 toes. Your thumbs are shriveled from moonbathing. Elders nod at their bickering. In my day, we used palm widths at sunrise, mutters a corn tender. His wife flicks a mayfly off his shoulder. Your palms were swollen from pulque hangs. Farmers once tracked duckweed to predict harvests, its growth revealing soil acidity and fish health. They'd toss maize kernels into patches, counting sink time to gauge thickness. A girl drags a paddle through the green film. It parts like spoiled cream, exposing frantic minnows gulping air. Too slow this week, the beans'll starve, she worries. Her brother kicks a splash at her. Too fast, and the carp drown. Remember the stinking year. They're referencing an actual 1480s famine. Duckweed suffocated Lake Texcoco's fish for months. You kneel plucking a strand. The weed feels like frog skin soaked in grease. A teen offers a beetle nut shell, its interior scored with growth rates. Grandmother's cheat sheet, he whispers. Ignore the spider webs. Historians still argue whether these measurement systems were precise science or just generations of extremely competitive guesswork. Shouts erupt downstream. A youth stands waist deep, arms raised in triumph. 14 thumbs by noon. New record, his peers groan. One chucks a rotten prickly pear. Cheater, you nudged it with your knee. An elder separates them, her stride parting the green mat like a blade. Foolish egrets. The lake breathes through this scum. She yanks up a clump, revealing water beetles fleeing the sudden light. Aztecs called duckweed water tortillas, sometimes harvesting it as emergency famine food. Tastes like pond scum, because it is. Dusk brings whispered conspiracies. Teens crouch on half-sunken logs, comparing thumb notches on reed strips. Oxalotl's cheating, he marks his left thumb longer. Liar, my thumbs match. A girl interjects, remember the drought year. Elders fed us duckweed stew, tasted like boar snot. Moonrise silvers the debate. Rafts creak, loaded with silt, to slow the green advance. The siblings from earlier dump their cargo, arguing all the while. More here, the carp are gasping. Less there, the squash look pale. Their compromise leaves both scowling. You skim a hand through the weed, it recoils, then reclaims the space. Someone's abandoned beetle nut chart floats by, numbers dissolved into Rorschach blots. A teen plucks it up. Look, the lake drew a duck. His friend squints. That's clearly a jaguar eating a duck. Their Their shoving match creates tiny whirlpools, each sucking down emerald fragments. Elders murmur approvingly. Passion stirs the waters, says one, though his grin suggests he's taking odds on the fight. Midnight quiets the shore. Crickets replace human bickering. You find a forgotten measurement stick wedged in mud, its thumb notches warped by moisture. Nearby, two glowworms pulse, where teens trampled the weed into a bioluminescent soup. Dawn reveals the victor, a 12-year-old girl's section blooming healthily, while rivals' zones either strangle fish or starve crops. She shrugs at her peers' glares. Beginner's luck and spying on newt migrations. You toss the warped stick back. The lake swallows it, burping up a bubble that pops in a perfect green ring. Your sandals squelch toward market rafts, their planks sagging under pyramid stacks of dried chilies. Cormorants line the docks like feathered gargoyles, necks distended by stolen tilapia. A fishwife elbows past you, her ear pressed to a bird's gullet. Tlacopan's governor, smuggled scarlet macaws. She hisses to her companion. The bird croaks, its throat bulging with half-swallowed gossip. Market women circle like vultures, jotting rumors on palm leaf ledgers. Aztecs used cormorants to catch fish, leather rings preventing them from swallowing. But nobody controlled what they overheard. A trader tosses a minnow to a particularly garrulous bird. Sing louder, feathered spy. Two merchants nearly brawl over conflicting intel. The queen's pregnant. No, she's smuggling obsidian knives in her skirts. Their argument pauses as a cormorant vomits a rancid fish onto the dock. A crone scoops it, peering at the bile patterns. See, knives hidden beneath twins. You spot a teenager bribing birds with grasshoppers, her ear against feathery throats. They lie, she murmurs. Real truths come from. She taps a bulging gizzard. Historians still argue whether cormorant divination was ceremonial theater or Mesoamerica's first aquatic news network. A fish spine lodges in your sandal, ancient punishment for eavesdroppers. Legends say traders were force-fed spines until their entrails sang truth. Market guards still carry spine-tipped clubs, just in case. Dusk turns the docks lethal. Traders chase cormorants, reed baskets ready for regurgitated bonuses. One bird coughs up a silver nose ring, and the gossip it was swallowed with. Chief Ahuetzotl's mistress wore this at the blood moon feast. You lean too close to a perched gossip monger. It nips your earlobe. Blood drips onto the raft. A fishwife gasps. Now the birds will whisper your secrets. Torches flicker on. Poles cast cormorant-shaped shadows across the water, beaks open in eternal screech. A merchant's daughter demonstrates avian truth serum, dripping pulque into a bird's nostrils. It sneezes up a half-digested scroll scrap. Tax hikes on lily seed flour, she deciphers. Her competitors groan, some hurling tamarinds at opportunistic gulls. Midnight brings fish thieves. A masked figure paddles silent, plucking cormorants like ripe fruit. The drugged birds slump, their stolen secrets spilled into the thief's waiting jar. You step on a loose plank. The creek sends him fleeing into reed mazes. Dawn exposes the robbery. Angry traders interrogate groggy cormorants. Who took the harvest tax rumors? A bird croaks out a hairball laced with jade beads. The market collectively gasps. Tax collectors are skimming tribute. By noon, the docks stink of scorched feathers. A truth ritual backfires, flames torching a merchant's loincloth. His competitors cackle their own secret safe in a cormorant smuggled under a tortilla blanket. You pocket a dropped rumor scrap, the ink blurred by fish entrails. It smells like betrayal and carp bile. Somewhere, a councilman wonders why his secret mistress chants echo in the marketplace. As shadows lengthen, the birds themselves grow fat and quiet. Their throats emptied of everything but supper. Sunlight snaps like a broken winch. Noon plunges into star-flecked black. Hose freeze mid-swing, their blades glinting in the void where a sun once hung. Chinampa farmers cling to maize stalks, fingernails digging into fibrous bark. The Aztecs charted eclipses using crossed reeds and obsidian mirrors. But knowing the math doesn't steady your knees. A priest's bone dust rope sputters to life, its flames green as rotten copper. Others follow, snakes of corpse light writhing across causeways. Skeptics say the fuel was powdered jaguar bones, but municipal records mention donations from rival kingdoms' battlefields. The fire breathes backwards, sucking shadows toward ember teeth. You stumble into a bean terrace, ankles tangled in sacrificial cord. A farmer clutches your wrist, his pulse skittering like a caged quail. They're wrong to fight it, the sun god's just taking a piss. His laughter dies as the earth groans, its voice deeper than pyramid drums. Children's wails ribbon through the dark, high and thin, a S, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter blades. Housewives relight cooking fires, flames reflecting upside down in the obsidian sky. Someone hurls a clay pot at the eclipse. It shatters into 17 shards of defiance. Priests chant in broken harmonies, lungs straining to outsing the stars. Their torches sketch desperate birds on temple walls, wings beating against nothing. A hidden detail, eclipse rituals required chewing star tobacco to resist cosmic vertigo. But tonight they're using roasted dandelion roots instead. Budget cuts hit everyone. The bone ropes spit sparks onto the lake, each cinder birthing a hissing steam eye. Fishermen count them aloud, a numerology of panic. 9 means flood, 12 means plague. Their voices fray as the count hits 23, a number with no pre-written doom. Cold drafts lick your neck, night's tongue probing for warm secrets. You glimpse shapes in the abyss, feathered serpents with human teeth, or maybe just floaters in your terrified retinas. Historians still argue whether eclipse art depicts genuine visions, or THE Chinese letter, equivalent of drunk dialing the gods. An elder shoves charred squash blossoms into your hands. Eat them, the stars crave empty stomachs. The petals taste like burnt hair and bee vomit. Distant torches reveal farmers necking pulque, liquor dripping onto eclipse-charmed amulets. Suddenly, a scream. A child dangles from the causeway, her grip failing on slime-slick stone. 6 hands grab her belt simultaneously, including yours. She's hauled up smeared in algae and good intentions. Her first words post-rescue: the water tasted like old potatoes. Wind riffles the dying bone ropes, their flames now violet and spiteful. The priests chants fray into wet coughs, throats raw from inhaled corpse smoke. A jest circulates among fishermen. Huitzilopochtli's drunk again. Someone check his pulque stash. It's less funny when the eclipse outlasts the torch supply. Dawn arrives in awkward increments, a blush creeping up the sun's cheek. Priests collapse their robes, reeking of failure and bison tallow. Farmers prod wilted crops, already calculating tax exemptions for act of God damages. By mid-morning, the lake boils with argumentative ducks. You find a half-melted bone rope in the reeds, its once sacred fibers now binding someone's firewood bundle. Efficiency trumps reverence here, unless the stars are watching. The widow kneels where maize once towered, her thumbs pressing bean-curled strings. Each knot in the widow's cord holds a number. 2 sons, 3 blighted harvests, 1 stillborn daughter curled like a milpa seed. Aztecs measured griefs. Chinese letter cords, fibers taxed by salt and thumbprints. The lake slurps at her shins, its calculus older than Tenochtitlan's foundation stone. Corn silk clings to her skirt, golden threads mocking the gray in her hair. She whispers ratios to the mud. 2 graves times 3 planting seasons divided by 1 empty cradle. Historians still argue whether such cords documented actual losses or bargaining positions with tax collectors. A carp surfaces, its gulping mouth etching circles in the silt. Some widows claim fish carry messages to Xochiquetzal's underwater gardens, but this one just nibbles her toe. You crouch beside her, knees popping like overripe chayote. She ignores you, fingers flying through arithmetic only drownings understand. They took my boys in the flower wars, then the lake took their shrines. Her math mutates. 4 missed birthdays times 7 moons without song. 1 rotting raft. Overhead, cormorants debate her sums, their throats bulging with other people's fish. A gust unspools her cord, knots bouncing into the shallows. She lunges after them, elbow deep in ancestor soup. Mud births pottery shards, a child's clay whistle, something that might be a collarbone. The carp circles tighter, an accountant with scales. You spot a marketplace joke carved into a floating log. A widow, a taxman, and a corpse walk into a pulque shop. The punchline's been chewed off by turtles. She retrieves a knot, silt streaming from its loops like tiny hourglasses. The lake wants its cut, she spits, wringing out the cord. Always. Her grief equations gain decimals. Half a son remembered in spring rains. 3/4 of a daughter whispered in dreams. Night herons arrive, judges in feather robes. They stab at fish, made bold by her stillness. A bureaucrat's copper badge glints in the reeds, stolen or surrendered. She suddenly stands water, sluicing off her weathered thighs. 620 days since I laughed, she declares to no one. 903 since they did. The carp rolls belly up, a silver comma punctuating her sentence. Skeptics say fish only float dead, but locals insist they're listening. Dawn finds her weaving a new cord, strands dyed with crushed cochineal and regret. Each knot cinches tighter than the last, love letters to loss. You offer a tamil from your pack, she pockets it for the calculator in the mud. The lake exhales, its breath sour with swallowed prayers. As you turn to leave, she grabs your wrist, palm calloused by abacus reeds. Tell them I balance the books. Her smile cracks like a dried-out Chinampa. You nod, pretending not to notice her tears dissolving in the water. Another variable in the lake's endless equation. Moonlight slicks the water into quicksilver parchment. Your sandals kick, ripples that erase unseen words. Ahead, baskets float like sunken moons. But lift one, and it vomits ghost-white petals. Night blooming, jasmine unfurls its jailbreak, each blossom a starlet, seizing her moment before dawn's paparazzi arrive. Scribes wade through the spectacle, their reed pens nibbling bark paper. One mutters numbers like incantations, 37 moonflowers, 12 corpse lilies, 8 devil's trumpets, pretending to be innocent. Aztecs called these censuses the flowers, vote, believing nocturnal blooms swayed, which deities guarded the sunrise. A petal drifts onto your palm, cold as a snake's belly. Some claim night bloomers sprout where adulterers lied, but that might just be village wives keeping husbands honest. Aquatic crickets provide the tally music, legs sawing against cattail stems. A scribe pauses, flipping his paper to reveal older counts etched in squid ink. Last year's census had 200 more florets, he grumbles. Damn ducks ate our margins. Historians still argue whether these counts dictated real policy or just gave bureaucrats something to tally between festivals. You mention the moonflower's scientific name, Ipomoea alba, and get a reed pen flicked at your nose. Latins for gravediggers, snaps the scribe. Call them yalloxochital heart flowers. They bloom when the world dreams. Something heavy nudges your calf, a manatee-sized axolotl surfacing for air. Its gills flare, filtering petals into wet confetti. An intern tosses it, a rotten tangerine. Don't feed the registrars. An elder hisses, but the creature belches approval. Petals adhere to your legs like soggy band-aids. You spot 3 scribes arguing over a mutant bloom, half jasmine, half mushroom. Pollen thieves, accuses one. Heretical grafting, shouts another. The youngest scribe just pokes it, recording. One flower confused about its life choices. Laughter dies when magistrate drums boom, the count's final hour approaching. Torchlight metastasizes across the lake, reflects turning the water into a black mirror scribbled with fire. Scribes rush, tossing their papers into clay ollas sealed with bee glue. You glimpse tallies being compared. A junior clerk caught scribbling love verses in the margins. An elder licking pollen off his notes. The axolotl, now hosting a kelp toupee, blinks its lidless eyes at the frenzy. A shushing wave rolls through the crowd. Priests arrive wearing orchid headdresses. Their censers spew vanilla smoke, sweetness meant to stabilize the petal's volatility. One high priestess parts the reeds, her obsidian nose ring catching the moon's leer. The datura argues for Tilalak's storm priests, she announces. But the Jasmine Coalition favors Xochiquetzal's pleasure cult. Murmurs ripple traders already adjusting their morning bribes. Sudden rustling in the shallows. A delinquent water lily blooms 3 minutes past deadline. Teen scribes wrestle it into a basket, petals protesting like crumpled sheet music. Rogue elector, someone sneers, probably accepts kickbacks from firefly lobbyists. The axolotl belches again, this time smelling of tangerine and existential despair. Dawn's first knife slash bleeds orange across the horizon. Priests dump the ollas into a ceremonial raft, petal-stuffed jars, clinking like drunken academics. The high priestess slices a rope, releasing the vessel into the current. To Mictlan's accounting rooms, she chants. Scribes collapse onto lily pads, fingers stained with plant blood and arithmetic. You pluck a discarded blossom, its edges already browning. As sunlight attacks the night's work, a scribe whispers. They say each petal pressed against a doorframe wards off tax auditors. You pocket 3, just in case. Somewhere beneath you, the axolotl gnaws on a bureaucrat's lost sandal, democracy's true breakfast. Canoes emerge to harvest the wilted blooms, their hulls heavy with fertilizer and forgotten tallies. A child scatters last night's petals into her baby brother's cradle, improvised confetti for a 6 a.m. birthday. Overhead, vultures circle nature's audit, waiting for someone to fail. The lake exhales, its breath smelling suspiciously like a courtroom clerk's lunch. One scribe remains jabbing his pen at water striders. They're altering the voter pool, he tells a disinterested frog. His colleagues row home, tossing mock petitions into the wake. When he turns, you see his tally sheet. A single word repeated in angry glyphs. You translate as you walk away, squelch of mud, sinking with the rhythm. Fraud, fraud, fraud. Your souls sink deeper than usual, black earth slurping at your heels like a thirsty infant. A farmer kneels nearby, fingers combing through silt that crumbles like aged cheese. It speaks through the cracks, she mutters, palm pressed to a gnarled maize root. Erosion's whisper rises, a hiss between grains, as the soil recites its final will and testament. You crouch, thumb brushing a fissure where the ground has split its own skin. A clump of dirt detaches, melts into the canal below. Experts think these farmers invented terracing to combat erosion centuries before European agronomists discovered the technique. But today's Earth seems determined to rewrite history, one crumbling syllable at a time. The farmer unrolls a bark cloth square, patterned with glyphs of coiled serpents. She scoops disintegrating soil into it, knotting the fabric into a pregnant bundle. Words to carry downstream, she explains. Some elders swear mixing menstrual blood into the bundling cloth pleases the earth goddess. You decide not to ask what's in hers. More farmers arrive, arms layered with soil parcels like terracotta tumors. One man licks a sample, frowns, spits. Too much limestone guilt, he declares. Historians still argue whether these soil eulogies actually preserved fertility or just made good compost. Either way, the procession moves toward the water's edge, each bundle kissed before being released. A child tugs your sleeve, offering a dirt clod wrapped in corn husk. For your hometown river, she insists. You pocket it, imagining Mississippi barges haunted by Aztec silt ghosts. The farmers chant as parcels sink, dirges harmonizing with the glug of drowning earth. Beneath the ritual, a wet smack echoes, something large breaching the surface. A manatee nudges a floating bundle, rolling it like a river otter with a toy. Even Tlaltekutli's hungry. A farmer laughs, referencing the earth monster eternally craving sacrifices. You watch the beast dive, soul parcel clamped in its jaws. Theology gets messy when wildlife interferes. Drops hit your neck, warm and jellied at once. Suspended mud rains from a cloudless sky, the lake vomiting back what the land tried to surrender. Farmers tilt their heads, mouths open to catch the bitter manna. Second-hand words, coughs a teen sputtering as grit coats his teeth. You find an abandoned bundle, half submerged, its cloth fraying to reveal grayish dirt. Inside, a fingernail-sized clay figurine, crude and genderless. Modern archaeologists would label it a fertility idol. But right now, it just looks lonely. The last soil speech fades as your canoe pushes off, shoreline retreating like a receding hairline. Across the water, a farmer waves with soil-blackened hands. You wave back, accidentally dropping the husk-wrapped clod into the current. It bobs toward the horizon, one tiny diaspora of meaning. Somewhere downstream, a catfish swallows it whole. Translation complete. Your finger hovers above the shallows, the water holding its breath beneath your nail. You carve the first glyph, a zigzag for traveler, but ripples distort it into a frown. Dusk paints the lake crimson, the perfect ink for vanishing autographs. Beneath your toes, something glistens. A shard of obsidian, its edge precise as a scribe's pen. You scratch harder, etching your mother's name into the liquid parchment. Aztec codices used similar glyphs, recording everything from corn taxes to eclipse prophecies. Your attempt looks more like a drunk centipede's diary. A fish rises its kiss, erasing 3 letters. Co-author, you mutter, redrawing the characters wider. Folk tales claim water glyphs reach the underworld faster, their edges softened for ghostly eyes. You're half certain you just invited Xolotl to dinner, Night arrives, your quiver of moonlight exhausted. The lake regurgitates a blue glow algae, conspiring with bioluminescent plankton. Archaeologists found Mayan pools bred such organisms, living ink for midnight manifestos. Your name shimmers now, aquamarine letters fraying at the edges. A handprint materializes beside your script, larger webbed. The same manatee from earlier surfaces, its whiskers flecked with residual soil. It exhales, a mist that rewrites your E as a spiral. Historians still argue whether manatees reached Tenochtitlan, or if Aztec artists just depicted really ugly mermaids. You trace a final glyph, friend, but the beast's tail smacks the word into confetti. It submerges, leaving a vortex that spells apology in hydraulic Morse code. Or maybe that's the seventh pulque gourd talking. Dawn approaches, your biography reduced to silver smudges. Fishermen glide past their oars, slicing your leftover letters into syllables. One nods at the dissolving mess, better than my wife's etchings. His companion laughs. At least yours doesn't accuse you of cactus adultery. You wade deeper, knees bumping, submerged prayer tablets. Waterproof parchment existed here, cotton fibers pounded with resin into crackling sheets. Your thigh brushes a sunken slab, its glyphs too eroded to shout their secrets. A tiny snail grazes your ankle, nature's punctuation mark. The last surviving letter drifts toward a heron's stilt legs. The bird freezes, one golden eye judging your existential crisis. With a squawk, it stamps the character into oblivion, then poops where your name once floated. Art critics everywhere nod sagely. You retreat bare feet, imprinting the shore with temporary tattoos of mud. The lake whispers behind you, a wet lullaby chewing through consonants. Somewhere beneath the peat, 1,000 vanished names ferment, awaiting the next scribe drunk enough to try again. Your toes sink into cool mud each step, pressing farewell notes into the earth. The lake exhales a breath that unravels the last stubborn syllables clinging to your skin. Above, a heron preens its feathers, your illegible story, now part of its plumage. Moonlight thins to broth pale and nourishing. Shadows pool between the maize stalks, liquid silence seeping through roots. You kneel, fingers brushing water's taut surface. It yields without protest, a language older than glyphs, older than thirst. The current hums a lullaby, its vowels stretching across your palms like strands of silk. Somewhere below, time folds your name into sediment. Tomorrow's scribes will find different words, softer verbs, leaning toward kinder endings. For now, the dark cradles every vanished letter, every smudged confession. Mud embraces your ankles, warm and weightless, as if earth itself has learned to float. A distant splash ripples the horizon, a manatee's broad back arching through starlight. It sinks without sound, a punctuation mark in the lake's endless sentence. Your laughter bubbles up, unwritten, then melts into the chorus of croaking frogs. The fishermen's voices linger as echoes, murmurs braided with the rustle of reeds. Their boat becomes a silhouette, a smudge of charcoal on indigo parchment, carrying tomorrow's stories in its wake. You taste dusk on your tongue's smoke and ripe guava, sweetness unbound by glyph or stone. The world holds its secrets gently tonight, no need to etch them into being. A snail spirals across your wet footprint, leaving a gleaming trail of interrobangs. Each twist questions, without urgency, curiosity, softened by the hour. You let it wander, the only chronicler still awake. Wind plucks a single marigold petal, gold dissolving midair. You borrow its descent, breath slowing, shoulders lapped by the night's forgiving tide. Let the water unspell you. Let the forgetting be gentle. Your eyelids grow heavy, measured blinks, framing fragments of sky. Stars blur into glyphs you'll never decipher, and that's all right. The lake's breath steadies, a syncopated rhythm inviting your surrender.